Live stream started, Chair.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this virtual licensing committee meeting of the 1st of April 2021. I'd just like to welcome everyone from North Tyneside who may be watching. This meeting takes place under the regulations issued by the government, which were to enable us to conduct meetings remotely in light of the current pandemic, and it's therefore to allow the public to actually be able to receive and observe. It's our method of transparency. My name is Tommy Mulvenna. I'm the chair of the licensing committee, and I will be chairing the meeting this evening. I would like to inform everyone that this meeting is being live streamed to the public via the council's YouTube channel. Before we move on to the agenda, I'm now going to ask each member and officer present to briefly introduce themselves so that everyone can identify with the participants. Right, thanks very much. Can we start with Councillor Austin? Is Councillor Austin here? No. No. Councillor Brady?
Chris Brady, Northumberland Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Crudders?
Councillor Crudders, Battle Hill Ward.
Councillor Eddie Dark?
Eddie Dark, Benton Ward.
Councillor Linda Dark?
Linda Dark, Kilnworth Ward.
Councillor Kath Davies, just had her apologies. Councillor David Drummond.
Councillor David Drummond, Monkston South Ward.
Councillor Gary Madden.
Councillor Gary Madden, Wallsend Ward.
Councillor Janet.
Janet Hunter, Benton Ward. And my computer's about to restart, so if I disappear, that's the reason why.
Well, that's about normal for a meeting, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Councillor John O'Shea has put in his apologies. Councillor Judith Wallace.
Councillor Judith Wallace, St Mary's Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Willie Samuel.
Councillor Willie Samuel, Cullercoats Ward and Vice Chair of the Committee.
Right, thank you. Joanne Lee.
Hello, Joanne Lee, Public Protection Manager, North Tyneside Council.
Stephanie Graham.
Hi, Stephanie Graham, Senior Licensing Officer, North Tyneside Council.
Thank you. John Barton.
Hello, John Barton, Laureate, North Tyneside Council.
Dave Parkin.
Good evening, I'm Dave Park and I'm the clerk for this hearing.
And Joanne Holmes.
Chair Joanne's just working in the background. She's not participating in the meeting. She's just dealing with the live stream, Chair.
Acknowledge that she's here. Is there anyone that I've missed?
Chair, I got in a little bit late and I don't know if Trish Brady.
Oh, she's here. She's here.
She texted us, that's great, thank you.
Right. For today's meeting, we must first follow some formalities. And as for the meeting, if there's anyone watching who needs to have the papers are on our website. And we move to the agenda. Apologies for absence. Well, we've done that. We've got Councillor O'Shea, Councillor Davis. Anyone else? Yeah.
None that I've been advised of, Chair.
Right, thank you. Declarations of interest? Any declarations of interest? No. In that case, can we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which seems like a lifetime ago, being held on the 28th of March 2019. Can we confirm the minutes of that meeting, please?
Agreed.
Anyone got any issues with the minutes? Take no hands as no. And we now move on to the minutes of the subcommittees. These are to note that we've had a lot of subcommittees in 2 years. Is anyone got any problems with them, and can we agree them?
Agreed.
Yes, agreed. Great, thanks. Can we move on to item 5, the License Act 2003, Gambling Act 2005, application license granted between 1st of the 3rd 19 and the 29th of the 2nd 2020 under delegated authorities. And I understand, is it Steph who's taking this one? Or is it
Yes,
Joe?
that's correct, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So the purpose of the report is to provide the committee with an update as to the decisions taken by officers under delegated authority for the period 1st of March 2019 to the 29th of February 2020. In this time, officers have granted the following licences. Under the Licensing Act 2003, we've issued 104 personal licences. There have been 34 transfer of premises licences, 108 variation of designated premises supervisor, 8 premises club variations, 19 new premises licences, 13 minor variations, 240 temporary event notices. Under the Gambling Act 2005, 1 gambling permit was new, renewed or transferred. We had no new premises licences and no transfers or variations. The subcommittee in this time determined 9 new premises licence applications, 3 variation of premises licences and 2 review of premises licences. And in relation to enforcement activities, there were 57 compliance notices checked, 57 compliance inspections carried out and 52 statutory notices checked. And that's that for that one, Chair.
It seems like a terrible amount of work. Do any members have any questions? Please indicate. No. Has any members got any comments? Councillor Wallace, is it you? Did I see you click that thing on and off there? No?
No, Chairman.
I must have touched the wrong button. I do it all the time. Right. Then in that case, can we agree the recommendation on the report? The recommendation of the committee is to note the decision taken by officers under delegated authority for the period 1st of March 19 to the 28th of February 2020. Can we agree that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Right, and we'll now move on to item 6, which is the Licensing Act and Gambling Act 2003 Licensing Act 2005 Gambling Act, application for licenses granted between 1st of the 3rd 20 and the 28th of the 2nd 21 under delegated authority. Are you doing that as well, Steph?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So again, the purpose of the report is to provide the committee with an update as to the decisions taken by officers under delegated authority from the 1st of March 2020 to the 28th of February 2021. In this time, under the Licensing Act 2003, officers have granted 70 new personal licences. There have been 24 transfer of premises licences, 50 variation of designated premises supervisors, 12 premises or club variations, 21 new premises licences, 8 minor variations and 78 temporary event notices. Under the Gambling Act 2005, there have just been 3 gambling permits processed, and the Licensing Subcommittee have determined the applications for 3 new premises licences, 3 variation of premises licences and 2 reviews of the premises licences. And in relation to inspections and notices, we've carried out 132 inspections and checked 50 notices. And this year, our compliance inspections have included COVID compliant visits to licensed premises. And that's the report, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do any members have any questions? No? Any comments? And can we accept the recommendation, which is to note the report?
Chair, Councillor Cruddas.
Oh, sorry, Councillor, I didn't see your hand. Right, Councillor Cruddas.
It was just really to congratulate Steph and the team on working throughout the pandemic and obviously working quite tirelessly. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Then can we accept the decision to note the report?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Great.
Right. That moves on to item 7, which is a review of the cumulative impact assessment. Who's taking this one? Is that you, Joanne?
It is. I'm taking this. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. The purpose of this report is to advise this committee of the process that will be adopted for the review of the cumulative impact assessment, which we must complete by the 11th of October 2021. The recommendations within this report, there are 2 of them. First of all, is to note the process that will have to be adopted for the review of that assessment, and that will be taken in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003. And also to note that a further report will be presented to this committee in September at the conclusion of the review. And that's so that the committee can determine what steps, if any, should be taken once the findings of that assessment are known. I'll go on to give you a little bit of background of what cumulative impact assessment is. So within your report, the actual act it's contained within section 5A and states that if the licensing authority considers that the number of relevant authorisations in respect of premises in one or more of its area described in the assessment is such that it's likely that there will be an inconsistent with the duty under section 4.1 of the Licensing Act, which is a duty to promote the licensing objectives, then there's to grant any further authorisations in respect of that part or those parts. So the concept of this cumulative impact is it's a recognition that the number of licensed premises or clubs, if concentrated in one area, that they can result in problems, and those problems can be things such as public nuisance, crime disorder, or antisocial behaviour, and that can be at the premises, but also can be considered if these issues are occurring near a licensed premises. It's recognised that some of these problems may occur because of a large number of people being concentrated in a particular area. As you'll be aware, prior to 2018, the Licensing Act was slightly different, and that the licensing authority, if they wished to introduce such a policy, did so when they reviewed their statement of licensing policy. And it was to be a presumption against the grant of substantial variation of a premise licence in a particular area because the cumulative impact that would be stated as being so in an authority statement of licensing policy. So the government then reviewed the Licensing Act and they inserted section 5A within that act. And that said that if a local authority is to have a cumulative impact assessment, then they have to set out the evidence that the authority is relying upon to have their opinion that a certain area should be a cumulative impact area, and that if any further licences, whether they be premise licences or clubs, premise certificates in a particular area, if they were to be granted, that would undermine the licensing objectives. So in October 2018, this committee approved the publication of a cumulative impact assessment. At that committee, the committee came to the opinion that no further licences for alcohol-led premises should be granted in the following areas. That was for the defined area of South Parade and Whitley Bay, and also a defined area around Front Street and Tynemouth. Within the assessment, further areas were considered, but the decision was that those 2 areas would be contained within the cumulative impact assessment. The committee considered that granting further any licences or variations would fail to promote the licensing objectives in those two set areas. Following that decision of that committee, that was then taken to full council in November 2018, and within that council meeting, the statement of licensing policy was approved by council to include that rebuttable presumption against granting premises licences for alcohol-led establishments within those two areas of Whitley Bay and Tynemouth. Within Section 5A of the Licensing Act, it requires that when you have a cumulative impact assessment, you have to review that within the relevant period. And that relevant period is every 3 years. So therefore, by October 2021, which is 3 years since our assessment first came into force, we have to have reviewed that assessment and taken the steps in order to make sure that we have an updated assessment in place. So what we will then intend to do, therefore, is to take the appropriate steps to review that assessment. And we'll be undertaking steps to have a look to see whether there's any parts of that assessment that need to be changed. I'll go on to give you the timetable for that in a second, but I think it's just worth noting that obviously in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic, we are very aware that within North Tyneside, there has been large impacts on the hospitality trade, and not just North Tyneside, across the country. And that could be premises that are within North Tyneside, but it could be premises that are part of a larger organisation in other parts of the country. So as part of the review into this cumulative impact assessment, that will be considered, and also will be considered any of the long-term effects if any licensed premises have had to close, whether that be other areas of the borough or within those two areas that we currently have highlighted as cumulative impact areas. The consultation, which I'll go on to explain, will hopefully be made when the current COVID-19 restrictions have been eased and when licensed premises have fully opened. We have the roadmap at the minute, which has outdoor areas for licensed premises to be open from April, and then the inside from a date in May. Obviously, these dates, as you will be aware, are not set in stone. These things can change. So we will take consideration of that as we move through the next few steps. So within your report at 2.1.2, you have the timetable. The steps we are at the minute, we are looking at what amendments we have to make to that cumulative impact assessment. We are looking at officers, we are just having these discussions. We'll also take steps to have discussions with our responsible authorities, such as the police, to see whether there's anything that they feel should be amended within the cumulative impact assessment. That will take us to our first draft. And what we will then do is we will start a 6-week consultation exercise. We expect that to be within July and August. Once that consultation exercise is concluded, we will collate all those responses, amend it as required, and then it will come back before yourselves in September to make your decision whether you are of the opinion whether the two current places we have should remain as cumulative impact areas, or again whether we should look at other areas, and that will all take into account the responses and the evidence that's been collected during that consultation exercise. If it comes to our opinion that things do need to be amended, then obviously we will take the appropriate steps, and we will have to make further amendments to the statement of licensing policy, and that will have to go before council to make those appropriate steps. But we will consider those as we work through the different dates and see what different decisions are being made as we work through those. So thank you, Chair. So it's the two recommendations within this report, and that is to note the dates, this consultation exercise, and also to consider this report will come back before yourselves in September. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions? Councillor Samuel?
Yeah, I mean, you may have covered it, but could I just ask a little bit more detail about the consultation exercise, when it will begin, what it will involve, and will we be consulting local community groups, that kind of thing?
Yes, so we're expected to be within July and August, and it will be a borough-wide consultation exercise. So we will do it through the engagement hub on the council website. We'll make sure we do the appropriate press releases as well, and we will make sure that we also look to see any community groups as well, and we will try and reach out to as many different organisations as we can, and obviously residents as well. They will all have a part to play in giving their views back as part of that consultation exercise.
Okay, will that be specifically, obviously that'll be across the borough, but there'll be any additional items in the areas that already have, the impact groups like Tynemouth and down Whitley Bay?
Yes, we have a large database of different residential groups and such like within the borough. So we will obviously definitely reach out to those within those areas that we currently have as cumulative impact areas, as well as others within the borough. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barton?
Yes, Chair. I was just following on from a question that Councillor Samuel asked there. There is a requirement in the Licensing Act when reviewing your cumulative impact assessment and consulting thereon to undertake consultation with those listed in Section 5, subsection 3 of the Act. So listed in there, for instance, is the Chief Officer of Police, Fire and Rescue Authority, be the Director of Public Health. Such persons as the licensing authority considers to be representative of holders of premises licenses, those that are representative of holders of club premises certificates, such other persons as the licensing authority to be representative of holders of personal licenses, such other persons as the licensing authority considers to be representative of businesses and residents in the area, which of course will include councillors, and therefore, as we did on the last occasion, we'll try and ensure that we consult with as wide a spectrum of those in the borough as possible, but we must do so in accordance with the requirements of the Act.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Councillor Hunter?
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered who comprised the working group that's going to look into this, please, Joanne.
Yes, so that it's an officer working group, so that we can make sure that we've considered any other players within the council, so we can look to see whether we need to have any planning implications that we need to consider. So fundamentally, it's an officer working group at this time.
So the officers are whom?
Sorry, so it's officers within licensing, so it'll be myself, it'll be Stephanie, and we also asked Mr. Barton to join in so that we have a legal representative on that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Samuel, did you have another question? Put your hands up.
Sorry, I better take my hand down.
All right. Anyone else got any questions? No. And does anyone have any comments? No. Then can we agree the recommendations to note the process that will be adopted for the review of the cumulative impact assessment that has to be undertaken in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, and also to note the further report will be presented to the committee in September 2021 at the consultation of the review of the cumulative impact assessment, so that the committee can determine that steps, if any, should be taken once the findings of the assessment are known. Can we agree that?
Agreed.
Agreed. In that case, I think we've come to the end of the meeting. Can I thank everyone for their attendance, and I also thank people who've actually attended on the committees, the individual appeals committees. I know there's been a lot of them, and there has been times when they have taken up a lot of time. So can I just thank you all for that as well? Thank you very much. And good evening, and we'll see you all later on. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Bye.